What is up, Atlanta? This is Aaron or Kerem here from Atlanta Goat Format, bringing you a fresh new piece of content this week. And today we're going to be talking about the event that happened this past Saturday, the Grand Puy. This is an event put on by GoatFormat.com and worked on behind the scenes by some of the biggest and greatest, and brought to you by Puy. Fantastic event run, very interesting format choice. If you guys do not know, and if you missed Puy's video, go ahead and check it out for a full breakdown of this. But it's a rotating ban list based on your recommendations from the fans. This first ban list, of course, was created and worked on by the creators at B of GoFormat.com along with Puy. And they came up with this ban list where, they removed toxic cards like Delinquent Duo and Trap Dust Shoot, and the powerhouse cards like Ring of Destruction and Blackluster Soldier. Now you may be asking us, 1, why are we doing this? And 2, why are we bringing it to you Atlanta Goat Format? Well, to answer the first question, it's a new way to introduce players to Goat Format. I think a lot of the Edison crowd, or a lot of those that have been kind of kept out by 1, complicated rulings, and 2, just cards that make you feel bad. I mean, getting duoed, getting Dust Shoot, they're not the end of the world in my opinion, but they just, they really take away from what you possibly could do as a player. And then cards like BLS and Ring obviously make the game just very, very quick, and just, again, can really make you feel powerless in a lot of situations. And I think the whole point of this event and this ban list was to give the power to the players, let the kids play. So I think it's a very interesting list. I think there's a lot of parts that I hope to see make waves in this format, and as we saw in the first event on Saturday, we had a lot of interesting deck lists and a lot of turnout and a lot of buzz around this format, and I'm excited to see where it goes. With all that said, we're going to get right into our interview with a top 8 finalist of the Grand Puy, InfusionsCap. Alright, we have here InfusionsCap, the top 8 player from the Grand Puy. How did you feel about the event, the new introduction of this rotating ban list, and overall, your deck choice, and what would you change?
Hey, thanks for having me on. So overall, I thought it was a really good start. It's really promising. There's a lot of discussion going on right now in the community about, where we go from here, other things we could potentially try out. So pretty much anything that sparks that kind of discussion, I think is a good thing. It keeps everybody focused on a greater goal, whether you're talking with your teammates, you're talking with opposition, whatever, just that conversation, I think, is a really good thing.
What are your optimisms for this format going forward?
I'm really optimistic about it, actually. In fact, anyone who's on the fence about this, give it a shot before you knock it. My first impression of it was, okay, this is going to be something that divides the community. But I think it's actually had the opposite effect for a couple of reasons. This isn't replacing true GOAT format. So it's not like anybody really has to say, okay, we have to do it one way or the other now. It's just giving more options. I think it's also stimulated a lot of discussion in the community. And anytime we have that, I think that's a good thing. So I'm very optimistic for where this is going to go. I'm not really sure what they're going to do with the list or when they're going to make any changes with it. I've got, my own personal bias about what I would like to see, but so does everybody else, right? So I don't know if, it's going to be debated in some sort of committee or put to some sort of vote or what have you. But I think it's a really good thing. I think it's off to a great start, and I think it's got nowhere but up to go. The first iteration of the ban list, I actually think was really good. There's not much I would do differently. I would take Cyberstein out of the mix, personally. I don't think it promotes interactive gameplay.
I totally agree. I think really one thing that Puy said that stuck with me throughout the tournament that really pushed it home to me about this modified GOAT format is that the whole purpose, I think, of what they were trying to do with the ban list was to take out the cards that make players powerless. And, by doing so, you have to take out the powerful cards, because those powerful cards that punish your opponent leave your opponent powerless. and leaves them cards in their hand essentially dead because there's nothing that they can do about whatever you have, and they have no answer to it. And I feel like by getting rid of cards like BLS and Ring and Duo and Dust Shoot, those are cards, besides being toxic, just really punish your opponent to a point where it's very hard to come back from, and sometimes ending the game. So I would agree with Cyberstein is definitely one of those cards that can definitely shift the momentum of the game to a very towering feat to come back from.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, I don't actually have any complaints with any of the things that were taken out or limited. I can't stand BLS anymore. I can't stand Duo. I definitely can't stand Trap Dust Shoot. So, I mean, personally, when I saw the list, I was like, oh wow, this is almost what I always wanted, you know. So, it was really cool just to be a part of that, and I can't wait to see what's coming next. I mean, I think this is a great new chapter for the community as a whole. All of the new bans, the limitations, the unlimitations kind of reached the target goal, which was shake things up a little bit, kind of slow the game down in some ways, which kind of worked, kind of didn't work. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I definitely think that a lot of people before the event and while the event was going on in chat, I didn't have a chance to catch the beginning of the stream, but a lot of people were hammering on the fact that they believed that combo decks were going to really take over this event, and there was a few here and there, but overall it was a very different turnout for usual, the bread and butter of GOAT format, especially with those cards like BLS and Ring removed and Dust Shoot and Duo. There was a lot of interesting thrown into there.
Oh yeah, those are all very key iconic cards for the true format. So taking any of that out is going to shake things up a lot. And sure, you look at the first place list and a turbo deck ended up winning the event anyway, and you think, okay, well, did this experiment really do anything? But second place was zombies, and we haven't seen zombies in forever. So I think there's still room for improvement. The powers that be are going to get together and discuss it. I know right now they're talking about how frequently the list is going to be updated, in addition to what they're going to update. So, there's a lot of discussion still to be had about it. Combo definitely isn't dead. Admittedly, when I first looked at the list and saw Trunade go into 1, I thought Reasoning Gate was going to really struggle after that. But it didn't. It had a good showing, and it's actually what ultimately ended up knocking me out of the tournament. So it's definitely not dead. I don't really think there's anything out there except maybe Panda Burn, but now that I've said that, that'll probably win the next one. So yeah, I mean, the night before the event, me and a couple of my teammates were doing a little bit of scouting. We were on the Discord, we were watching games, we were watching replays, and we quickly noticed that Abyss Soldier to 3 really inspired a lot of people to play it. And after playing with it, it's not difficult to see why. It's a strong card. So we saw a lot of that. We saw some zombies, and we saw Reasoning Gate the night before when we were scouting. And so we kind of took our decks and modeled them around the idea that those were going to be the most prominent decks that we were going to run across, which was true to a degree. So that's kind of why we arrived at some of those choices that we ended up making, specifically Bottomless Trap Hole. Bottomless is a great way to stop Abyss Soldier. Saku just doesn't really cut it against him. In regular goats, I think Bottomless is kind of unreliable. But in the modified format as it currently stands, I think it's much stronger.
Yeah, I mean, that card came up huge for you in a couple of instances. You Bottomless for 4 on a Bazoo player, which was just changed the whole momentum of the game right there.
Oh yeah, I was toast without that. Or if he had Genzo out of play, that wouldn't have worked out for me. But Bottomless is a really tricky card. It's great against return, but it also fuels return, so you got to be careful about when you're using it. Return wasn't really at the top of my list of considerations when I landed on Bottomless. It was on the radar. I was thinking more about Abyss Soldier and Dimension Fusion, honestly, but it worked out for the most part.
And I also know with those combo decks that you were talking about that I've seen a lot of talk from the hosts of the event as well that there might even be a kind of a with Reasoning Gate kind of doing well, there might be a shift where I've seen a couple of decks. I've been watching a couple of games this past week. People trying to run like some type of Monster Gate themed deck without the Reasoning within it. Being able to utilize cards like Abyss Soldier, I think that type of momentum could be huge. I mean, Abyss Soldier at 3, especially playing the Tribe and the Serpent, really does add something to this format that we haven't seen in a while, especially how lack of play that card has seen.
Oh, absolutely. I don't expect it to stay at 3 for very long.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the answer to that isn't to ban Sinister, because I think a lot of other cards are impacted besides Abyss Soldier with a Sinister ban. So like Regeki Break, for example, Metamorphosis, I think both of those cards get significantly worse without Sinister Serpent.
For sure.
So I'm hoping that doesn't suffer for the sins of Abyss Soldier. But we'll see what happens.
All right. So how did you we talked about the Bottomless, we talked about the Abyss. How did you go about crafting out the other the 55 that you decided to play with on Saturday? I see a Jazura Priest sneaked in there. Was your thoughts on that? I know we saw a ton of duelists, they couldn't play the pure turbo anymore, so we saw a lot of walls being put up, namely scapegoats being thrown around, and I see you found yourself with those as well. Was that the idea behind cards like Azura Priest and Tribe making it into the main, or just you needed, what was your thought process behind some of these choices here that stick out?
So I knew that I wanted Abyss Soldier to kind of be the centerpiece of the deck. So in order for Abyss Soldier to really shine, you really need to find your Sinister. So that's why I went with Tomato. I'm personally not a huge fan of Tomato or recruiters in general if you're playing Scapegoat. It can be awkward, but having that path to Sangan is a path to Sinister, and I felt like that was going to be important. So Spirit Reaper kind of fit in as another thing that Mystic Tomato could get that would also be serviceable as a defensive maneuver in the absence of Gravekeeper Spy. Asura Priest, I did expect Control, any of the multiple variations of Control, to have a good showing, and I felt like it was going to be a strong choice against Reasoning Gate as well. In that particular matchup, the return to hand clause of the spirit monster can actually be an advantage. It makes it where you can poke, you can keep them off of, the ability to snatch steal your monster and use that for their monster gate. So that's one thing, and I knew I was going to need some lights because I wanted to play Chaos Sorcerer. In the absence of BLS, it's still the best, just extra summon to push damage or to help solidify your board state. I also knew I wanted to play 3 Raigeki Breaks because it's just the most versatile removal. You can use it in, front row or back row. So Thunder Dragon to help fuel that if I have trouble finding my Sinister, and then, all roads kind of lead back to that Chaos Sorcerer. So, that's kind of how the monsters worked out. The Jar of Greeds are also in there to bait Abyss Soldier. I wanted to try to have a lot of traps that were chainable, so that, if Abyss was trying to open me up from my spells and traps, I would be able to chain it and kind of, leverage that into an advantage. In the side deck, I've got the second copy of Magician, and I also have a Zaborg. Depending on the matchup, those were flexing in for the Asura Priest a lot. if the Asura wasn't going to be good in the matchup. I have an extra Tsukiyomi in there, and I want to talk about that a little bit. My thought behind that, I really expected the Thousand Eyes Restrict decks to have a big showing. So I wanted to have, a second copy of Suki in case I found myself in a long, drawn-out mirror match, which is also part of the reason I went with the second Book of Moon. The second Book of Moon was also sort of a hedge against Decree and Genzo. I wasn't really sure how popular either of those cards were going to be. I like to have access to at least two of them. Sometimes I main one, side one. Sometimes I'll just main them both. For this event, I decided to main them both. In hindsight, I probably only needed one of them, but if the pairings were different, the matchups were different, who knows, they might have been more valuable. So I mean, that's something to look at. Oh, and the Kaiku, the one of Kaiku in the main and the one in the side, was sort of my counterplay to any of the other decks that were going to be still trying to do like Triple Sorcerer Turbo, or any of the Abyss Soldier decks. You get a poke in there after they've Abyssed with their Sinister, you get the Sinister out. That's a big tempo swing. Because a lot of their ability to swing the board back is going to be damaged that way. So that was sort of the thought behind that. The Noblemans, I decided not to main the Noblemans just because what I saw the night before, I felt like flips were going to be less prominent. And they were to a degree. Magician of Faith, of course, is still just an absolute powerhouse. So, one thing I would probably recommend going forward is somehow get the Noblemans into the deck. Maybe one of the Book of Moons and something else, personal preference, one of the breaks, one of the jars, whatever. You could do it that way. The brain control on the side is just kind of there in case I'm bringing in the Monarchs. It's just another way to help me make a swing play. Tributes get jammed in your hand sometimes, and nobody has any fun then. So the biggest superstar of the whole event for me was Karibo. Any meta deck, any Metamorphosis deck should be siding Karibo, especially if you have Tomato to get into Singing. It really is the best answer against Reasoning Gate, in my opinion. I don't feel like Threatening Roar does the job, because it's too easy for them to just wait. With True Nade to 1, Roar is a little bit better than it was, but it still doesn't really guarantee you anything the same way. I mean, the machine build specifically, it's better. Karibo is just 10 times better. It's really not even close, because they make their play, they use their limiter, you can Karibo after the limiter. So then their limiter's gone, their monster's gone, you still didn't take any damage. And I mean, that's just devastating. They have used up all of their ammunition then. So that's kind of where I was with that. And then I have the extra Scapegoat and extra Metamorphosis in the side, just for any of the matchups like Reasoning Gate where I need to be more stally, or anything where I just want to try to drag the game state out. It's just a really grindy deck, and those kind of work out. But I didn't want to brick with them game one, so I kind of just kept them in the side. The two Sakus are there. I didn't know, would Warrior or Earth Aggro make an appearance in some capacity, so I wanted to have access to them. But I felt like starting Bottomless was just going to be better overall. And then just a one of Dust, because it's really good with rogue decks. It's good against Skill Drain, which I think Beast Beats was playing that. The guy that came in second with the zombie deck, I think he had Skill Drain. So I didn't actually get to play him, but if I had, that probably would have gone in to help with that. So yeah, that's just kind of an overview of what I was thinking. Oh, and Premature Burial. If you're gonna play Abyss Soldier, play Premature Burial. It's just the combo is just absolutely cracked.
Card is free with three
Yeah.
Abyss.
Yeah, so free.
I think that it's gonna open up new doors and new avenues, and it's great to see cards like Breaker actually get to stay on the field after they get their counter. So it's gonna really add to, I think, just the diversity of the format as well as the health of the format, and give kind of something new for players that are kind of feeling burnt out, and being able to. It's always fun to explore new avenues, and then deck building is a huge part of the community as well. Researching and finding new strategies or new things that you can exploit, and if you're not having to deal with a BLS coming down and then followed by a ring of destruction or getting cards ripped out of your hand, it certainly makes those strategies a lot more fun and also a lot more possible.
Yeah, I mean, it gives everybody a chance to actually play the game. I mean, we saw more diversity, even though Turbo won the event. We saw more diversity in this than I think we've seen in a while. I mean, we had a zombie deck in second place. Dueling High was playing a crazy cool deck with Lighten the Load and Crab Turtle, playing Manju and Senju to go get Crab Turtle and then trade it in with Lighten the Load. I mean, you would never see that in regular GOATs. Just no way. So, I mean, it's really cool. I can't wait to see what everybody comes up with next. I can't wait to see what I can come up with next. So, I think it's going to be a good time.
All right. Well, that was InfusionsCap. If you want to learn more about modified GOAT format, I'll have those information in the description below. Check out Puy's video if you're looking for an introduction to the format, and join in the GOAT format Discord as well. Join the community, talk about it. They're getting really connected and really fired up about this format, and we're all waiting to see what's coming up next. Any last words from you, InfusionsCap?
Yeah. One last thing I want to say. There's a lot of debate right now about whether or not Pot and Graceful should be banned. I am in the camp that thinks they should not be, because I sort of have this mindset that you're actually hurting the lower tier decks more if you remove the draw power than you're hurting the higher tier decks, because the higher tier decks are already playing better, in air quotes, cards in a vacuum, right? Their top decks are usually going to be stronger on average than something that a lower tier deck would play. So I think you need that draw power for the sake of diversity. Not to mention, don't you just feel good when you play Pot of Greed? Like, doesn't everybody want to play Pot of Greed?
Yeah,
so,
I totally agree with that.
So that's just my opinion on that. I'm sure there's going to be some people that flame me in the comments for that, but I welcome that. Let's talk about it. Change my mind. Maybe I'm missing something. Anything to open that discussion is going to be good for everybody, I think. And before I go, I just want to shout out goatformat.com, Atlanta Goat Format, and my teammates Raven's Anger, Dundeal 06, Blinky the Cat, H2O Pro 2, JWP 829. Couldn't do it without you guys.
All right, big shout outs. Congratulations again on the first top 8 in the Grand Puy event, and looking forward to seeing what you do in the modified GOAT space.
Thanks for having me on.
What's up? It's Kerem from Atlanta Goat Format, wrapping up this video with you. If you made it this far into the video, leave it a like, drop us a comment, let us know what you think about modified GOAT format. What do you think about InfusionsCap's insight after his top 8 performance? Let us know what your thoughts and sound off in the comments. Big shout out to InfusionsCap's on topping and coming on and giving his insight on this newly founded format. Big shout out to Puy for hosting the Grand Puy event, and GOATformat.com for giving her that platform to do so. Really appreciate all of you and what you are doing for the GOAT community as we continue to build it stronger. Really wish I could have got this video out a little more timely, a little bit closer to the event, but I just had a lot of personal life stuff come up, so I figured any video is better than no video, so here it is. So I hope you enjoy. This is, again, Atlanta Goat Format. I'm Kerem, the owner and operator, and I just wanted to let you all know, if you're interested in getting involved in GOAT Format, hit me up. get in the Discord, get in our Facebook group. We're going to be hosting a 3v3 at the end of June. On June 29th, we're having a Casino Royale 3v3. 2 Edison players and 1 Goat player are teaming up in a 3v3 where they're going to be playing for some amazing card prizes. All that information on the event is actually on our website at atlantagoatformat.com. Yes, sir, baby. We got the website up. We got a store in there. Help support us. Come fuck with us. All right, this is Kerem. Y'all have a good one.